So this film is perhaps a little bit less about drawing techniques and more about the decision-making process that we engage with when we draw. I started off this small still life of some rosebuds and sycamore keys in a very conventional way with just a line drawing in pencil. And then I went back and started adding in some areas of general tone. After a short while I took a blending stump and rubbed back all of the marks I'd made on the paper, although some of the outlines in the foreground where I'd used more pressure in my mark making still remained. And using some soft dark pencils I went back in and started building up the tone and extra outline on the rosebuds in the foreground. And this stage of the drawing was really about building up tone and, more importantly, tonal contrast, where I wanted to create some focal points, so some very dark and light areas together. And I was working on the area in the foreground of the two rosebuds and the front edge of the sycamore key, which I wanted to be the kind of main focus of the drawing, and then have everything else much softer and less defined around that. For the sycamore keys in the background, I kept the drawing much looser, and the edges were really soft and not at all defined, and all of my mark making was just a little bit more expressive. And at this point in the drawing, which is about halfway through, I got an eraser pencil and erased bits pretty much all over the drawing, just to take some of the mark making back, but also to pick out some of the white paper again to increase the contrast on some of the parts where I wanted that. And then I used the stump again just to soften particularly the outer edges of the drawing. And this was really to try and make a drawing which had different levels of detail within it. So some of the pencil marks would be broader and softer, some were fine and hard, some were very pale and some much heavier. And then by continuing to build in some extra tone and some more definition on some of the edges, particularly the front edge of the sycamore key, I was able to really push this idea even further. And this is something I know I talk about in my in-person classes, that you don't have to treat the whole drawing in the same way. And in a way this creates a sort of visual interest and a kind of metaphorical light and shade where the viewer's eye can travel across the drawing and discover different things happening. And it's quite interesting to have parts of a drawing which might be very well rendered or representational and other parts which are much looser and more expressive, and the two things can coexist in one drawing quite nicely.